Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by this quarter's sponsor, Playground, the all-in-one childcare management software. We're all about managing monkeys and saving you time at your center. With this platform, you can. We're proud to partner with a team that's as committed to your success as we are. Learn more at tryplayground.com. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Welcome back to today's conversation, and I am so glad to have Jennifer Clements join us, and we are going to talk about, all those issues that business owners have as they try to scale. And so, Jennifer, welcome to the show and welcome to the conversation, and tell us a little bit about how you found yourself in early childcare, business experience, and even where you're located.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So my background started actually pretty early on. My mom had an in-home childcare. She started that when I was born, actually. She had ended up having 4 girls, and then also took in some other children that she cared for several years, actually. And so I like to say I grew up changing diapers. It was just a way of life. But I thought that I wanted to go to law school, actually. So I went on and I went to K-State, and with the intention of getting my undergrad degree and then moving on, and never quite happened that way. I started my first business while I was actually in undergrad. It was a nanny placement agency. I was working as a nanny and also working for a franchise childcare, so kind of one of the larger groups, and decided, you know what, I see a need and I have, some great contacts with the families that I already work with. And so let's give it a go. Didn't know what I was doing, but started a nanny placement agency, and that rolled into, hey, I got married. I had a child of my own. I wanted him to be a little bit more exposed, to other children. I wanted quality, and just through some of my experience through undergrad and the different programs that I had experience with, I decided I didn't really like the options that were there. So I started my own and wanted something quality that was focused on community, because that was really big for me. That, where our locations is heavy military population. And so there's so many military families and just so many college students that are away from their families and don't have, someone they can call and be there within an hour, half hour. So that was really important to me to be the village, as we say, for families. And so that's how we got started. So we started in 2012 with one location, and now we have 3 locations, all based in Kansas, and hoping to grow in the future.
Well, as a military spouse, I can absolutely confess that those villages, they not only are they different than what you grow up in. If you're like, oh, I've always lived here, I've grown up here, my kids are here, like 3rd generation, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. I worked in programs in 3 different military towns, and sometimes folks would come in and go, well, here's my emergency contact number. They're my neighbor. I've
Right.
known them 24 hours, or that kind of thing. So that in itself, I applaud, because that just takes a whole different level of openness and understanding and flexibility because it's a different life cycle when you are working in military towns than towns that are, folks kind of come and live and stay for 12 years or 16 years. So you said that, okay, so you have 3 locations in Kansas.
Right.
And I heard you say college students, and you brought them into the family piece. So do you have a lot of college students then as staff? Is that part of your role as building the village?
Yes. Yeah. So we have several college students that work with us. We also have a lot of military spouses too. But yes, we work with the university pretty closely. And so they will send some of their early childhood students, because they do have an early childhood ed program, 4-year program. So they will send them to us as an accredited school, and they'll learn from our teachers. So we also use that as a great way to, find our next great teachers, because, when you're college students and, like you said, military, there is a cycle to that. It's every couple of years. And, we love them while they're there. And then we understand that they move on to the next. And that's certainly not everyone on our team, but it's quite a few.
So, one of the things, and I don't know why we've never done this as an episode, but I'm going to take the opportunity. I think one of the things that's really great about early childhood and military families is that it is an industry that you can find in every base. You can build towards getting a CDA. If you're in school age care, you can even get the school age version of a CDA through the military. They actually have one there through the CDA Council, but you got to be military. So you got to go work on base. So, but there's a lot of opportunity to build that skill and take it with you. Is that something that you guys have included in your staff recruiting, or is that just something you've kind of found by, going to go with experience?
Sure. A little bit of both. When we were first getting started, one of the licensing surveyors that I was working with on designing the building and planning, she was actually a military spouse. So she helped introduce me to some of the programs that I knew were out there, but I didn't really know, okay, what's my contact point? So military in your neighborhood, and um, childcare are some of those programs. And so, yes, we actually we just went through our reaccreditation. That's a huge piece. If you are offering care to military families, we serve as kind of their overflow. That the military bases are, they're usually very full. And
Mhm.
so if they are full or the family lives off base, then we serve as, a quality option for them in the community. And so, we make sure that we're meeting those NACI requirements. And sometimes, yes, we will also send members of our team through different programs. Some of our directors started as teachers, and to be able to, continue to grow as leaders, we put them through some just different offerings, whether that's CDA or just different courses that we actually had them take. That's something that we've done a lot of.
Oh, that's great. I don't know why that had never popped into my head to have as an episode before, because it is one of the few professions that would be really very portable and very easy to translate as a military spouse from base to base. So,
Yes. Mhm.
well, how exciting. So I'm glad to hear that you've incorporated college students. I would suspect that if you've got college students, you're used to the struggle of, let's just call with Jenga version of staff scheduling. Have you, what are some tips you might have for somebody who is like, because we get folks all the time who are like, oh, I don't want college students because I want to know I've got people who can work Monday through Friday, the equivalent of 9 to 5, right? Like they want these standard schedules. And of course, I love Jenga. Maybe why I loved having everybody part time. My preference was always the more part time, the better.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on hiring college students, looking at them as a potential pipeline for quality educators?
Yes. Great question. I would say about 50% of our team are college students, and then the rest are full time. And I think college students just bring a different energy. Not to say that, that can't come from, a full time team member, because we certainly have fantastic full time team members. Don't get me wrong, but they just bring a different energy, and they know, where they want to go. One of our very first college students that I personally hired, and this was back in the day, so 2012, but she's now a pediatrician. And so being able to, help her, gain that experience. And, we now stay in touch. She has, little one of her own. And it's just so neat to be able to see that. I find great reward out of that, of seeing, okay, we get to work with this person for 2, 3, sometimes 4 years. And then they go off and, what are they doing? That's one of my favorite things. So We also have some team members that they thought they would leave the area when they graduated, but they enjoyed it so much that they might switch, their profession. They might decide to teach, and that is something with early childhood. As long as you have certain requirements that you meet, that we can take someone that has maybe a nutrition background, or maybe even business, music. There's great ways to incorporate all of that.
Oh, I love that. And those are one of my favorite things, especially this time of year. So, recording this during the summer, one of the favorite things I had was incorporating my college students' hobbies or majors into the summer camps that we offered. And so, theater majors were always one of my favorite. A lot of folks instinctively think, oh, I need to only hire ECE majors. I'm going to tell you right now, go find those musicians, go find those music majors, go find those theater majors, because theater majors are a bit dramatic. And so you ought to see them do a story time. Like they can get the kids engaged and having a great time. And so I like them better than the EC teachers.
They
So
bring like different energy, different things. Yeah, we've had some great puppet shows and things like that from bringing in just students with different backgrounds. It's so fun to watch.
love that. So, what would be your one tip if you were going to give somebody listening to this episode? We've got a lot of owners and directors across the country, well, really around the globe, 126 countries,
Huh.
listen to our show. So, if you were going to give them a tip for hiring somebody who is in college, not just college age, but they're in college, what is the one thing that you've learned maybe the hard way about hiring that age group when it comes to maybe scheduling or just team dynamics?
Yeah, yeah. Well, lots of team building, because when you're college students, every about 6 months, your team's going to shift a little bit, and that's something we've gotten used to, that we plan for, and we plan for even better now than what we used to, because that was something that we learned probably the hard way a few too many times, and then realized, okay, this is a cycle. And even, around holidays, if your college students, they live in a dorm or they live in a sorority, how can we be flexible about that? How are we planning ahead? And, you know, always tell my team that, okay, if we think that we're fully staffed, let's go ahead and add one or two more, especially if we know it's August is going to be around the corner, or January, those changes of semesters. You've got to be flexible. But, if you can try your best to work with those team members, you're going to have dedicated staff. You're going to have a dedicated team. Just take some flexibility and maybe a little bit more planning ahead.
Oh, I love the planning ahead. And it's interesting. So the way you said that, I was like, oh, because I always do just the opposite. Most of the time when I'm hiring college students, I end up with them at Christmas and at spring break, and not the other way around. It's been a while. I did work in some university towns that had a lot of that. They were gone, right? But it works the other direction, right? So if you've got the college student who is around at Christmas, but not around in the fall,
Right.
sometimes that's even better, because now you've got folks who will give your staff that breather for 6 weeks, and you're a little less stressed because you know that for 4 to 6 weeks they're home for the holidays or for the break. And so you can use them as substitutes
Yes.
and really get them to kind of connect with some staff, even if it's just Christmas, spring break, and then you got them for summer. So,
Right.
but it sounds like you've got the flip, which is just kind of a whole interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that does happen, and other places that have a different version of college town vibe.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. So now, as you've grown, I'm sure like most folks, you've had, you've embraced technology. So you've been in childcare for, 15 years. So you're not doing it all with post-it notes, I would suspect. So let's talk a little bit about what your tech stack looked like way back when, how that's evolved. Like I said, I've had a stint at Microsoft. I was a FileMaker developer. a really long time ago. I was like, oh, wait, I'm not going to put a date on that one. We'll just say a long time ago.
Sure. Yeah.
And, so I love talking about technology. And I know that for a lot of business owners, this is a pain point. And so sometimes we use, off the shelf, big name, um, not industry specific software. But what are some of the things that you guys have used your tech stack for, maybe struggled with, and then we'll just keep going from there.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned, Post-its or sticky notes because I used to be the queen of that back in the day when we, had all of our tours. Yes. All of, even the same color.
I knew you were my people. I just knew it. Okay.
But we used to have all of our tours on a paper calendar. And then, we had a team member who, what again was not early childhood, but had said, hey, you guys already use Google for your email. Why don't you use a Google Calendar? Like, yeah. And at this point, we had more than one location. So we'd be, like calling back and forth, like, this just doesn't make sense. So implemented that. And that's really what kind of started that trickle effect of, okay, what can we keep making
Okay,
better?
wait. When did you start putting your tours on a Google Calendar? I'm just curious. How long ago was that? Because there are folks I still know who don't do that.
Yeah.
So
Oh
you had
man,
two
that was
locations probably?
probably 2018, 2019.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes. I wouldn't say we're early adopters, but we definitely look for ways to improve.
might depend on the industry.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you started by putting your tours on Google Calendar, and that
Mhm.
prompted hey, there's got to be a better way than a Post-it note and a paper calendar. Love that.
Yeah.
Now, currently, we know, right? Like we're in 2026. There are, I swear, every time I turn around, somebody else is creating a new app, a new something, right? And so, an AI um, has made that even more come about. I think just in the last probably 6 months with with the popularity of Claude Code and OpenAI and those kinds, Base 44, um, we're seeing more and more folks create in-house
Mhm.
custom resources that then they want to share, right? And so I know that you mentioned earlier when we were kind of doing some pre-talk that one of the things you guys actually explored was the possibility of creating your own,
Right.
because you wanted something that could grow with you, that did what you needed it to do. So talk to me a little bit about what your major pain point was. And because I think you even mentioned that somebody else on staff brought you kind of some options. So talk to me a little bit about what your major pain point was, and then we'll talk about that process of bringing options.
Sure. Yeah. So we were using so many different systems. When you start to adopt, you're like, well, this app or this system does this one thing really well. And then, this app over here does this one thing really well. We don't really use it for other, things that other services that maybe are available because we have all these others. So I would say it really started with our team coming to me and saying, we have parent teacher conferences every 6 months, and we track every child's developmental progress in a portfolio, and realized that the software we were using at the time went from us being able to track their portfolio or their portfolio from one classroom to the next to less than 6 months. It was almost like the cloud base got super full. And so I said, what do you mean that, after 3 to 6 months, we lose their developmental progress? Like our goal is 0 to 5. Like we want to track all of this. And I thought that this was the software partner that was wanting to do that with us. And so that's when it started, of us looking into some different options, trying to scale back some of, the different systems we're using of, Word and, Excel to track wait list. And then you have, QuickBooks for this and, all these different,
Oh,
different
yeah.
tools.
So, yeah. And you've got companies gobbling companies up. And so what
Mhm.
you hired them for, all of a sudden, now they do 5 other things. and you're paying for the 5 other things, but you're also paying for a tech stack of 5 separate things. So
Right.
you brought up QuickBooks, and I know all the things Intuit has gobbled up in the last 10 years. And some of them I used at different points in time, and now they're all in one tech stack. And I know for me, 2 years ago, we updated our tech stack professionally, and it was painful.
Mhm.
I hate apps. I mean, even with a tech background, I hate the whole concept of importing a whole new list and making like, oh no, like I don't even like to update my phone. Like,
I
so,
same, yes, yes. I'm like, can
so,
we
so
just
you had a
be
staff
done?
person who came to you and said, hey, here's 4 options. And were all of the options industry specific, or did she or did they bring you some off the shelf tailor, but maybe not industry specific? What kind of resources did she bring you?
So we did explore kind of all across the board of what, what's going to be the best option for us. Looking at some opportunities that were non-specific to the industry, then really we're narrowing down of like, well, then we would just be adding more to our tech stack. If we were looking at adding just bits and pieces of, software that's outside of our industry. Cause I mean, really technology is great, but there wasn't at the time a solution that could offer us more than really um, one or two services that would meet our needs. So we narrowed it down to, I believe it was 3 or 4, even including our existing software. Okay, is there ways that we could update this, change it? And she created a table that just showed, what each one was known for, and then what the other capabilities were. And then when we looked at it, it was kind of a no brainer of, okay, they can actually do what they're saying that they are able to do, which is not something that we've found other companies have done very well. They keep wanting to add to their services and,
So what was the major pain point for you? What was the issue that you went and found, you went on that hunt for a solution for?
yes. Well, so we had, yes, the tracking the children's progress and their photos. That's becoming a
Right.
bigger thing to use an app to keep in touch with parents throughout the day. So that was a big part of that. And then through the process of, looking at other solutions, other tech solutions, the payment processor that we were using, that was part of our existing software, it's almost like something just happened and payments weren't going through, you couldn't track them, and so that was when I said, "Okay, guys, like, we have to make a decision, and we've gotta figure this out because we can't not have revenue and not be able to track it. That should be the easiest part of our job, right? Like, we have software for that." So,
Right. And then we were talking and you mentioned that I thought it was key because it is absolutely something that makes a big difference when you're looking at revenue, is also knowing where are your openings going to be and when.
yes.
And so that was the kind of the clincher for you guys to choose playground, correct? Isn't that the I won't say the key, but the differentiator for y'all? Because again, everybody who has a tech stack, we all we love our tech stack for something, right? It could be the parent engagement, it could be, but I've been doing everything in MailChimp and I'm going to just stay here and I'm going to adopt everything that's into it because I don't want to leave here and I don't want to have to put those emails in 3 more systems, right? Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
but for y'all it was knowing that when and being able to look at it in a dashboard format, right? Like being able to
Right.
have that bird's eye view for your 3 locations, because that makes a
Mhm.
big difference too, right? Like what you're doing, you can track that on paper and pencil for one location.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so and my husband, who is now my business partner, is a CFO, and he remember looking at some of our reports together. He's like, "What do you mean you don't have a good way to project what revenue is going to be, what your openings are going to be? We know what the cycle of that is." So, it's something we had tried to build in like Excel, but it's not great. It's only as great as, if we keep it updated. And that was one more system. So that was a huge component to us switching to Playground, of being able to actually have something that, you know, tracks our current enrollment, tracks upcoming openings, And what is our income? What is our revenue going to be in a month from now, 3 months from now? It's so important to be able to have that, especially as you grow and you're trying to run a business. You've got to have those insights.
I love that. So Jennifer, real quick, for people listening, you guys have 3 locations. What are the sizes of your locations? And then in our show notes, we'll have ways for you to contact Jennifer if you're like, oh, this is something we've been struggling with. I also had a business partner or a significant other who tried to help me because I do hear that frequently. So sometimes there is that disconnect. So you planted that little seed. I'm just going to let people know that they can reach out to you possibly for that. But tell us a little bit about the size of your programs.
Yes. So our original program is Crush Grandmere, and that one is just over 100. 100 enrollees, children. We do offer part-time, so it wouldn't be an exact, FTE versus actual number of children enrolled. And then our second location is considered the Cradle. So that's purely infants and toddlers, and that is right about 50. And then we also have Heritage Square location, which is just under 100.
Okay. All right. So if folks are listening and they've got multiple locations that have somewhere between 50 and 100 students, you definitely would be open to having a conversation, even if it's through something like LinkedIn or via
Sure.
email. So like I said, in the show notes, we'll have that those contact informations for Jennifer. And Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I loved the direction we went, and I loved the fact that we got to talk about college students and military spouses, because
Yes.
both of
Yeah.
those are a little closer to home than I generally get to talk about in an average conversation. So,
Yes. Yeah.
all
Well,
right.
thanks
Well,
for having
Jennifer,
me.
thank you so much. And if you are new to our show, please make sure you go and subscribe. Join us at childcareconversations.com and join our newsletter. And with that, we will talk to you in a few days.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.